I grew up in a small village, the kind of place where everybody knew each other's business and where life seemed to move at a slower pace. Most people there were content with what they had: a modest house, a few chickens, maybe a small patch of land for potatoes and vegetables. But even as a kid, I felt restless. I didn't want just to survive. I wanted to build something bigger. The problem was, I had nothing. No land, no money, and no family fortune waiting for me. All I had was this stubborn feeling inside me that I could create a life different from the one everyone expected. I still remember the first time the idea of farming came to me. It wasn't glamorous at all. I was standing near an old barn, looking at a neighbor who was feeding his cows. His clothes were dirty, his boots were covered in mud, and yet there was something about the way he worked. He wasn't rich, but he was free. He didn't answer to a boss, didn't sit in some office staring at a screen all day. He worked for himself. That night I couldn't sleep. My head was spinning with thoughts. What if I could build a farm? What if I could create something out of nothing? Of course, the idea sounded ridiculous. People in the village didn't believe in big dreams. A few days later, I shared my thoughts with my father. "Dad," I said cautiously, "what if I start my own farm? Not just a garden with potatoes, but a real farm. Cows, chickens, maybe even pigs." He looked at me like I had just announced I wanted to fly to the moon. "Son, you have no land. You have no money. How can you even think about that? Farming is hard work. Most people do it just to survive. Do you think you'll become rich from it?" I hesitated, but I answered, "Maybe not right away, but I believe if I start small, I can grow." He shook his head, sighing. "Dreams are fine, but you need to eat. You'll see, life will teach you to be realistic." Those words stung, but they only fueled my determination. I didn't want to be realistic. I wanted to try. So I started with the smallest step possible. I bought 3 chickens. That was all I could afford at the time. People laughed at me. "3 chickens? What kind of farm is that?" they teased. But I didn't care. Every morning, I fed them, cleaned their little coop, and collected the eggs. It felt like progress, even if it was tiny. Within months, I managed to sell a few eggs around the village. It wasn't much money, but it gave me hope. I saved every single coin. Of course, life wasn't that simple. My friends thought I was wasting my time. Some even mocked me. "You'll never get anywhere with chickens," one of them said. "Why don't you just get a job in the city like everyone else? At least then you'd make money." But I couldn't imagine myself stuck in a factory or behind a desk. Something inside me whispered that this small beginning could turn into something much bigger if only I kept going. The next step was harder. I wanted a cow. A cow meant milk, cheese, butter, things people actually wanted to buy. But cows were expensive, and I barely had enough to feed myself. I worked odd jobs, fixing fences, carrying hay, even digging ditches. Anything that brought a few extra coins. I saved relentlessly, and finally, after nearly a year, I bought my first cow. I can't describe the feeling of walking that cow back to my small yard. It felt like holding the keys to a new future. People in the village noticed too. Some laughed again, saying, "You'll regret it, cows are too much work." Others shook their heads, predicting I'd fail. But when I milked that cow for the first time, sitting on a wooden stool in the early morning light, I felt proud. The warm milk filled the bucket, and I realized, this is real. This is mine. The work was brutal. I had to wake up before sunrise, milk the cow, feed her, clean the yard, then go to whatever odd job I could find, only to come back and repeat everything in the evening. My hands blistered, my back ached, and there were nights when I collapsed into bed wondering if I had made a mistake. But every time I sold a bottle of milk, every time I saw my savings grow, even just a little, I felt hope. One evening, I was walking home with a few coins in my pocket when I overheard two men talking about me. "He's crazy," one said. "Thinks he's going to build a farm out of nothing." "Let him try," the other laughed. "He'll give up soon enough." I didn't let them see me, but their words echoed in my head all night. And yet, instead of crushing me, they gave me energy. I'll prove them wrong, I thought. I'll show them what I can do. That was just the beginning.
The first year with the cow was a battlefield. I quickly realized that owning one wasn't just about milking and selling. It was about responsibility, sacrifice, and endless challenges. There were mornings when I woke up at 4, stumbled outside half asleep, only to find the cow had broken through the fence and wandered into the neighbor's garden. I would spend hours chasing her, apologizing to angry neighbors, and fixing the fence with whatever scraps of wood I could find. And then there were the winters, brutal, freezing, merciless. Keeping the cow alive became a daily fight. The barn was drafty, the hay expensive, and I had no proper equipment. I remember sitting on the cold floor, wrapping her in old blankets, whispering, "Just hold on, girl. We'll get through this." Some nights I questioned everything. I was exhausted, broke, and constantly worried. Was I chasing a dream that would never come true? But then came small victories that pushed me forward. People started noticing the difference in my milk. It was fresh, clean, richer than what they bought in the city. Word spread. Soon I had regular buyers. Women came with glass jars, children carried little buckets, and my tiny yard started to feel alive with people. With the extra money, I bought 2 more cows. Suddenly, I wasn't just a boy with chickens and 1 cow. I was becoming a farmer. Still, the path wasn't smooth. For every step forward, there seemed to be 2 setbacks. One spring, disease hit the village animals. I lost nearly all my chickens. I sat there watching their lifeless bodies, feeling my chest tighten. It wasn't just about the money. It was about the hours I had poured into them, the hope they represented. I almost gave up then. I remember lying in bed, staring at the ceiling, thinking, maybe my father was right. Maybe this is foolish. Maybe I should just go to the city and get a normal job. But the next morning, something inside me refused to quit. I dragged myself out of bed, cleaned the yard, buried the chickens, and went back to work. It was around that time that I met someone who changed everything. An older farmer named Petro. He lived on the edge of the village, a quiet man most people ignored. He had seen me walking with buckets of milk and one day stopped me. "You're the one trying to build a farm from nothing, aren't you?" I nodded, embarrassed, expecting him to laugh like everyone else. But instead, he smiled faintly. "You remind me of myself when I was young. Come by tomorrow. I'll show you something." The next day, I went to his farm. It wasn't huge, but it was organized, clean, and efficient. He taught me how to care for animals properly, how to build stronger fences, how to spot sickness before it spread. Most importantly, he taught me patience. Farming is not about speed, it's about endurance. You don't win in a day, you win over years. Those words stuck with me. Under his guidance, my small farm began to stabilize. By the second year, I had 4 cows, a few pigs, and a new batch of chickens. The work nearly killed me, but it was paying off. People from nearby villages started coming to me for products. My little business was becoming known. And then, one evening, everything almost collapsed. I had just finished milking when I noticed smoke in the distance. At first, I thought someone was burning leaves, but the smoke grew darker, heavier, closer. Panic hit me. My barn. I ran as fast as I could, and sure enough, the roof of my barn had caught fire. I don't even know how. It must have been a faulty lamp or dry hay too close to a flame. The flames roared and the animals cried out. My heart pounded as I rushed inside. Neighbors gathered, some shouting, some trying to help. Buckets of water flew through the air, but the flames were merciless. I managed to free the cows, cut the ropes of the pigs, and chase the chickens out. But the barn was gone. I stood there in the ashes, my face black with soot, my clothes soaked with sweat and smoke, and I thought, this is it. I'm finished. That night, sitting outside with the animals tied up to whatever posts I could find, I cried. I hadn't cried in years, but that night I did. All the work, all the sacrifice, it felt like it had gone up in smoke. The next morning, I woke to something unexpected. Villagers were standing in my yard. People who had mocked me, people who had doubted me. They brought wood, tools, even food. "You've been working too hard to give up now," one of them said. "We'll help you rebuild." And they did. For weeks, my yard was filled with hammers and saws, laughter and sweat. Slowly, a new barn rose from the ashes, stronger, bigger, better. I couldn't believe it. For the first time, I realized that people weren't just watching me, they were rooting for me. When the barn was finally finished, I stood there in front of it, running my hand along the new wooden walls. I thought of my father's words about being realistic, of my friends telling me to quit, of the nights I almost surrendered, and I whispered to myself, this is only the beginning. That was the moment I knew I was no longer just surviving, I was building a future.
The new barn changed everything. It wasn't just a building, it was a symbol of survival, of resilience, of a dream that refused to die. Standing in front of it, I felt like I had been given a second chance, and this time, I was determined not to waste it. I threw myself into the work with even more energy. With the new barn, I could take better care of the animals. My cows thrived, the pigs grew stronger, and the chickens multiplied. Production increased, and soon I had more milk, eggs, and meat than I could sell in the village alone. That's when I realized something important. If I wanted to grow, I had to think beyond my village. I started waking up at 3 in the morning to load jars of milk and baskets of eggs onto an old cart. I would walk miles to the nearest town market. At first, it was humiliating. People saw me as just another villager with farm goods. But over time, they noticed the quality. My products were fresh, natural, and honest. Word spread quickly, and soon customers began waiting for me every week. With the money I earned, I reinvested immediately. More cows, better feed, stronger fences. Slowly but surely, my small farm turned into a real business. But success didn't come without new problems. Managing a bigger farm meant more responsibilities. Animals needed constant care, markets demanded regular supply, and my body was reaching its limits. I couldn't do it all alone anymore. That's when I made another bold decision. I hired my first worker. It felt strange at first. Me, the boy who had started with 3 chickens, now giving someone else a job. But it was the only way forward. With help, I was able to expand even faster. Years went by in a blur of hard work, mistakes, and victories. My farm grew into something I couldn't have imagined as a child. 10 cows became 50. Chickens filled entire coops. Pigs grunted in new pens. I even bought proper machinery, a tractor, real equipment that made life easier and more efficient. The turning point came when a local restaurant owner approached me. "I've heard about your farm. Your products are different, better. I want to make a deal with you. Regular supply, steady income, what do you say?" I almost couldn't believe it. A steady contract meant security, growth, stability. I shook his hand, and that deal opened doors I never thought possible. Other businesses followed, cafes, shops, even schools that wanted healthy food for children. The money grew. At first, I barely noticed. I was too busy working. But one day, I looked at my savings account and froze. I had crossed the line I once thought impossible. I was a millionaire. I sat there staring at the numbers, remembering the boy with 3 chickens, the young man who cried in the ashes of a burnt barn, the farmer who worked until his hands bled, and now a millionaire. But the money wasn't the real reward. The real reward was walking through my farm and seeing life everywhere, the cows grazing peacefully, the chickens clucking, the pigs rolling in the mud. It was seeing workers earning honest pay, families eating food I had produced, villagers respecting the farm they once doubted. One evening, as the sun set over the fields, my father came to visit. He stood quietly, looking at the farm that stretched across the land. "You've done well," he finally said. "Better than I ever imagined. I was wrong when I told you to be realistic." I smiled, my throat tight with emotion. "No, Dad, you were right. Life is hard, but maybe being unrealistic is what saved me." He laughed softly, and for the first time, I saw pride in his eyes. Looking back now, I realized the farm was never just about animals and money. It was about proving that even from nothing, something great can rise. It was about holding on to a dream when everyone else told me to let it go. And as I watch the farm today, my farm, my life's work, I whisper the same words I told myself years ago. This is only the beginning.
Thanks for watching. Don't miss the next story.